What's happening? Family's back together. We got Jackson back here with us, Lucas and me, until 1 o'clock, 615-737-1045. Are we like a family? We have plenty of dysfunction.
No?
No?
I don't know. Missed you, buddy.
It's like what they say. It's like what they say about locker rooms, right? That a locker room is a family. Families are dysfunctional. Locker rooms can be dysfunctional.
Jeff Fisher shot down that whole family atmosphere, though, in the locker room when he was in studio with us the other day. So I don't know that we are best compared to a family or a locker room. Either way, we're happy to be with you. Until 1 o'clock, 615-737-1045. That's the number. I'm greeted by people on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch saying, Buck, have you ever been in a situation like Shannon Sharp? No, I cannot say that I have, but we will address Shannon Sharp tomorrow during Friday Fire because it is excellent. So, in the absence of that, let's talk about Will Levis and how he's handling the bounce back, right? Bonehead plays, but one bonehead play lost them the game in Chicago, the season opener, and he said yesterday in a press conference that he's not letting it affect him. Now, he also said in this clip that you're going to hear from Will Levis here in just a moment that he knows he's a good quarterback in this league, which I don't know yet. I don't think necessarily you know that yet, and I don't necessarily think he knows that for certain yet, but I appreciate his belief in self. So let's hear from Will Levis at the podium yesterday answering questions about how he flushes the Bears' result.
Yeah, I mean, it's just coming to work the same way I have every day, regardless of what happens the day before. And that's been the MO since day one. I feel like it's also a part of my game that I've improved on a lot in my career. There have been times where a game like that would have lingered for days, weeks, and really just kept getting to me. But I didn't lose sleep Sunday night. I knew that I'm a good quarterback in this league, and obviously a lot of things to get better on. But watching that tape, I still have that confidence and knowing that it's just kind of a fluke play that I can definitely learn from. So, I've still got all the confidence in the world in this team and everything. Just got to come to work every day the same way, regardless of what happens.
I know that I'm a good quarterback in this league, and obviously there's a lot of things to get better on. All right, so let's start there. Do we know he's a good quarterback in the league?
No, but like that's not even worth focusing on. Of course he has to say that. Of course he has to think that and have that mindset.
You don't have to say, I know I'm a good quarterback in the league. It should be it should go unsaid if you are, in fact, a good quarterback in the league.
Sure, I understand. But whether or not, before your first career start in the NFL, you have to believe that you are a good quarterback and you will be a good NFL. So I don't care about him saying that. I don't think it's worth even spending time on. But we can have the discussion, is he? And the answer is we don't know.
The answer is correct. We don't know. And the more important part of that question, or that response rather, is there have been times where a game like that would have lingered for days, weeks, and really just kept getting to me. That is of consequence. Because just like we don't know that he's a good quarterback, I don't know. I mean, he's telling us that this is in fact the case and that he's moved on and that it's not going to linger with him for days and weeks and so on. But what I witnessed on Sunday in Chicago and what the Jets are noticing on tape, as you'll hear from Jermaine Johnson here in just a little bit, is that he panics. And that can be taken advantage of. And so whether or not he comes in with his mind right on Sunday against the Jets remains to be seen. But this is a learn as we go process for him, for us watching him as media, as fans, and his teammates who are going to rely on him, who are going to have to rely on him to try and improve himself from what was a disaster ending to an otherwise manageable game, right? He did well enough to manage the situation until it went nuclear. You felt good about the offense. Maybe not about Levis specifically, but you felt good enough with what they were able to do and what the concepts that they were able to run and the plays that they were having success with. And then when things pivoted in the second half, you saw how they tried to shift things around and they were unable to do so successfully, but it was still a manageable game until he let it go. So now we come into this game with the Jets. What is the biggest factor in this Jets game, would you say? Because there's one thing that we haven't talked about all week long that is getting ready to start today.
What's that?
Hurricane Francine.
Oh, yeah, the weather
is upon us.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. It is I mean, the forecast right now for Sunday at Nissan Stadium is unpleasant. If you're going, wear a poncho for sure. And in fact, today at some point during the lunch hour, the rain is supposed to start. We are expected to get between 3 and 5 inches of rain between today and Monday. Now, why am I giving you a weather forecast? Well, because it's going to matter very much for a quarterback who's going to be expected to give a bounce-back performance. But if the conditions are miserable, how much harder does it get to evaluate Will Levis if they're, I don't know that they're necessarily going to be playing in a monsoon, but if it's sloppy out there, how much harder does the evaluation get when you factor in the idea that there is going to be, it's going to be tough sledding. It's going to be a slog for both teams, and I don't expect necessarily high-flying offenses from the Jets or the Titans on Sunday.
We can expect it's probably not going to be a pretty game. If it's going to be a torrential downpour at Nissan Stadium, like it's going to be in a lot of NFL markets on Sunday. So it should not be fair to go in thinking if Will Levis doesn't go 18 of 23 for 260 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks, then it's a disappointment. Just put the team in a position to win the game and don't give the game away. Don't hand the ball to the other team. Make good decisions. That feels like a pretty good baseline for what you want to see from Levis, considering the conditions on Sunday. Like, we'll have the whole season to sit back and look at the totality of a sample size. We're going to have plenty to judge Will Levis on this season. On Sunday, it's like, just put him in a position to win the game.
And I largely agree with that assessment, but, I mean, we're now talking about 2 games where, 1, the evaluation is, what are you doing, bonehead? And 2, is it going to be possible to really evaluate him based on what the weather conditions project to be? Now, of course, we'll wait and see what it actually looks like on game day. The rain is supposed to start today, so maybe it peters out by the time we get to Sunday. I have no idea, but at this point, it is something that is going to be a factor in this game, and heavy doses of the running game is something to be expected on both sides of the ball. Now, beyond that, I saw a lot of people freaking out about this press conference in ways that I did not necessarily understand. For example, A to Z Sports this morning did something on Levis facing heat for weird press conference answers and stuff like that. Did you watch the press conference?
Yes, I did. I watched it this morning.
Exactly. I was there, and I did not, other than him saying that there's a DeMario on the Jets defense that doesn't exist.
Who could he be talking about?
I don't know. There's no DeMario on the Jets roster. I checked. Because I'm the one who asked him about the Jets defense, and he said something about DeMario, and I'm sitting there scrolling through the Jets roster last night. Who the hell is DeMario?
Demario Davis was with the Jets back in when I was in high school.
Yeah, DeMario Davis has been a Saint longer than he's been a Jet, I feel like, at this point in his career.
DJ on the FNN Bank chat says his press conference was a disaster yesterday.
That's what I'm saying.
Am I missing something?
I don't understand what disaster people are referencing, but there was enough people freaking out about the press conference that I went back and watched it again this morning, and still I was not left with any kind of disaster.
We played the clip where he said, I didn't lose any sleep on Sunday night. I know I'm a good quarterback. So what? Do fans get up in arms about that? How dare you not lose any sleep?
Say you suck. Say you suck, Will. This is like when with Vrabel and Tannehill, right? When people were saying, just say that he's bad, Mike. Just bury the quarterback at the press conference. And we're sitting back here, and for what? Like, what is that going to accomplish if he goes out there and rips the roster? Which, he maybe did in not so many words, but like if he goes and actively agitates, or if a coach goes and actively agitates players on the roster in a press conference as opposed to addressing it in a team setting or something like that, what on earth does that possibly accomplish for you besides bloodthirst, So that people are freaking out about Will Levis and is he a good quarterback? He said he's a good quarterback, all his different decision-making and all the different things that he addressed yesterday. I thought it was a pretty routine press conference, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would like to hear any specific issues that fans would have taken with what Levis said yesterday.
Yeah, because all I'm seeing right now is it's a disaster. What was a disaster? Tell me specifically. Just because he got the name of a middle linebacker. Maybe he meant to say Quincy Williams instead of DeMario Davis.
Quincy Williams?
Yeah.
Or Quinnen Williams?
No, the brother, Quincy Williams, who is one of the best linebackers in the sport.
Oh, he plays for the Jets too?
Yes.
How wholesome.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Let's start with Chuck this morning.
Hey, Buck. First of all, I take a little issue with what you said earlier about, he got nervous in the pocket when he got pressure. I don't know 95% of the NFL quarterbacks are going to get nervous when they get pressure in the pocket. And, and if you look at Tom Brady, his worst games were like against the Jets or against the Giants in the Super Bowl when they got pressure in the pocket. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if he had not made the bonehead throw and they had just lost 19-17, I don't think we would have these discussions this week. It was the bonehead throw. And I just tell him on that, just be like my body tells me. I'm 68 years old, and when I do something stupid, it just says, don't do that again. Just don't do that again. And, the only thing I hope he doesn't do is he kind of sounded a little Zach Wilson a little bit here, in the press conferences. Maybe they need to start showing some of Zach Wilson's comments and say, just don't do that. That's the only thing I say. Will's going to get better. I think he's worked hard. He'll get better.
Thank you for the call, Chuck. So the idea of being nervous in the pocket, there's not, like, Tom Brady doesn't get nervous when he gets pressured. He just makes poor plays, right? Will is getting, and I don't want to say nervous almost. I don't think that he's nervous out there. I just think that he's not necessarily comfortable, and those are two different things. Now, are you going to be comfortable in the pocket at any given point? No, probably not. You're rarely in the NFL going to operate out of a clean pocket, but it's how he handles the pressure. And the fact that he was dirting it so early on in the first half of the game, where at least my initial thought was, oh, he's living to play another down, instead of, oh, no, he's playing too fast. He's speeding up before things actually have an opportunity to take place. And the pressure was not so great in the first half of that football game that he should have been playing that fast. He's not comfortable behind the offensive line yet, not comfortable in the new offense yet. And now we find out whether a week can make a significant enough difference to get him past some of that discomfort to allow him to operate more cleanly. 615-737-1045, the number. We'll take more of your phone calls. Do you trust Will Levis to bounce back from his mistakes? We'll talk about it. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. All right. How much you trust this quarterback to rectify his wrongs? Decision-making is the biggest thing that we are obviously honing in on. And is there some overreaction to this week? Yes. Yes. Week 1 is the most overreactionary time. Now, I also think that you are entitled to some level of reaction, if not overreaction, based on how badly that probably felt to you to watch him give away the game. But now coming in here at home against the Jets, weather may level the playing field. Which is the better team? Is it just the Jets because of the quarterback? Because I trust Aaron Rodgers he was clearly shaking off mental and physical rust in that game against the Niners, and he looked fine. He looked fine. So are the Jets the better team here? Because I struggle with that on a lot of different phases of how they put this roster together in New York.
You can have discussions about on paper what's the better, but the Titans haven't done anything to prove that they are a better football team than the Jets, I don't think. And a lot of it does come down to the quarterback. Titans defense was top of the league on Sunday. Jets defense was very much not. So, early results, maybe it's closer than we would think, but for what we know about the quarterback position in New York and what we don't know here, then you have to give it to the Jets.
Yeah, and by the way, the Titans defense did that against a rookie quarterback in his first NFL start. So I'm not going to take points away from them, but I'm going to grade on the curve of it's Caleb Williams' first start. You're expected to be the superior unit in a spot like that. Whereas with the Jets, that defensive performance against Brock Purdy and the Niners are a hard team to game plan and stop anyway, especially when Kyle Shanahan knows exactly what Robert Saleh is running as the former defensive coordinator for the Niners, so they diced them up with relative ease, but it shouldn't be that bad. So I don't think the Titans defense is going to be as good as it was in week 1, nor do I think the Jets defense is going to be as bad as it was in week 1 in that Monday Night Football game. But let's keep it on the quarterback right now. Speaking of the Jets defense, Jermaine Johnson, pass rusher, formerly of Florida State. Where did he transfer to Florida State from? Where was he previously? USC? Is that right? South Carolina?
Oh, I don't remember.
He had a previous stop before he ended up at Florida State before getting drafted.
Georgia. He was at Georgia.
Either way. So Jermaine Johnson was asked about what he's seeing from Will Levis, the Jets edge rusher, yesterday after practice. This is what he had to say.
He's a talented athlete and can throw the ball pretty well. But just watching film and just understanding some things about him, especially when he comes out, he's one of those guys that kind of, when things aren't going his way, he kind of can panic a little early, and just understanding how we can get him to that point as a defense and kind of how we can capitalize off of that. So just understanding how we're going to go throughout the week, understanding that what we can do on defense to make sure that we win this game.
Pretty impressive.
So Jermaine Johnson notes that they think that Will Levis gets nervous, and that's where you start to see things spiral. Now, I don't necessarily know that he gets nervous, but he does press, right? Is there a difference between those two things? There's a difference to me in pressing out of urgency or desperation, depending on the game situation that you would like to talk about, versus nervousness. Now, he was clearly not comfortable, but I don't think that's a result of nervousness. I think that's new offensive line that's not necessarily excellent in pass pro, and a system where he is being taught, all right, make good decisions, and he's just defaulting in that first half to dirt the ball. It's like Tom Brady in his last year with the Bucs, where their offensive line was wretched. And I'm obviously not making a comparison between Will Levis and Tom Brady, but just this one fact where Brady was just and also 40 years old, not wanting to get hit, so he's dirting the ball far more frequently. It's different with Will Levis because you can tell he's trying to make what he thinks is the right decision, even if he's not allowing enough time for the game to play out, versus somebody like Purdy, let's say, who the Jets just played, completely unbothered in the pocket. It's not like, and the Niners have a solid offensive line group, which is anchored by Trent Williams, who is excellent, of course. But there were times when the pocket's collapsing around Brock Purdy, and he just looks routine. Like he's just going through the motions, going through his progressions. Hell, I don't know how he can see over half the offensive line because he's not an overwhelmingly big guy. But he's just got this presence about him that allows him to navigate that pressure far better than I saw from Will Levis. Trevor Lawrence is also a player like Levis who struggles under duress this way, who speeds himself up when he's dealing with this pressure versus like Anthony Richardson, for example. For all Richardson's flaws, the pressure does not seem to bother him, does not necessarily speed him up. If he's making errant throws, it's because his mechanics are poor. And that is obviously something that's still in process. So when I talked to Greg Cosell yesterday after practice, as we broke down the Bears-Titans game and then previewed the Jets, this was what Cosell pointed out about Levis getting sped up.
I thought that overall, I thought he needs to settle down a bit in the pocket. I thought in this particular game he played a little fast. He was a little frenetic. I thought he moved his feet a little too much when he didn't need to. And sometimes that results in either just throwing too quickly or creating your own pressure. Now, he didn't do that on every play, obviously. But I just got the sense that, it was the opener and he was hyped up, and we know that he's a high-strung kid to begin with. And I just thought that his play reflected that to some degree. You hope that it's just, hey, the first time he started week 1 in the NFL. So you hope it was just a case of, the excitement of doing that and that he can settle down as the season goes on. I've been doing this a long time, Buck, and I'm not one who decides what a player or a team is after the first week of the season. I'm just telling you what the tape showed, and people can take that as they wish, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen every week.
Which, I agree with the assessment. It's not like that happened every week to him last season. This was just one specific game. But what do you make of the idea of the quarterback being high-strung? They kind of have to be to an extent.
Well, on Sunday, for example, anytime you saw a shot of Levis on the sideline when the offense was not on the field in the first half, what was he doing? He was, sitting down, looking at his tablet, just kind of looked centered, zen, whatever you want to call it. And that's just from a couple of camera shots. Talking to Ramon about this, he said the same thing. Every time the offense came off the field in the first half, kind of go back, sort of reset yourself, look at the tablet, adjust in game, put your helmet on when the defense comes off the field, go back out there. What did you see in the second half when things started to go wrong for the Titans?
Him start to get red-faced and screaming.
Every time the camera shows Will Levis on the sideline, that neck vein starts to pop out. And it's hard to have this discussion because you got to find a balance. Like, you can't sit there and say you don't want your quarterback to fire. He's not allowed to fire up the offense. Like, how many times have we seen Tom Brady coming off the field screaming at his offense?
That was one of the things that Mariota got dinged for the most is you're not firing it.
Right, yeah. And you see Brady cussing him out, lock in, all these things. So it's hard to have to parse through this conversation without, creating a double standard. But at the same time, that's when things started to go poorly for the Titans, when you started to see him get heated and see him trying to fire up the offense after a turnover, after a mistake. And then every time the offense took the field again, it's like it got worse and the mistakes got worse.
It unraveled.
Yeah, exactly. It unraveled. So I don't know. Is there a direct correlation there? Because you go back to the Miami game last year where Levis is red-faced and screaming because they've come back, and he's orchestrated a huge second-half comeback on the road in prime time against an AFC contender. So,
I'll give you the biggest difference between that game and the Miami game. He had DeAndre Hopkins bailing him out right and left.
Sure, but you also got to hit him, right? Like Calvin Ridley was right there to bail out Will Levis, wide open down the sideline, and he threw it out of bounds. Like, yes, DeAndre Hopkins was there to bail him out. Will Levis was also putting the ball on DeAndre Hopkins in those moments.
Yeah, there were a couple of nice throws from that Miami game. And it's clear that the Dolphins' defense was also, sagging off a little bit to allow that in the Monday night game to just bleed clock at that point. The unthinkable was the comeback itself. But I do think that Hopkins is a factor in this because it's not like he wasn't there on Sunday. He was there. He's on the sideline.
17 snaps.
But he's not as much of a presence on the field in that moment when Levis is getting more and more wound up, right? What is DeAndre Hopkins if not the complete antithesis of that? Very calm, very cool, very collected. Sometimes he'll jaw a little bit. He's clearly working the officials. the entire time, which also matters for a young quarterback to ease the degree of difficulty. So I'm not saying that Hop was not present. Hop was on the sidelines for the vast majority of the game, but he was on the sidelines for the vast majority of the game. He wasn't out there on the field with them. And Calvin Ridley has a different kind of demeanor than DeAndre Hopkins does. And Calvin Ridley has not spent as much time with Will Levis as DeAndre Hopkins has. And I know you brought up maybe last week at some point, are we making too much out of this? Well, DeAndre Hopkins and Will Levis have had so many reps together that it should be turnkey, like A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill were when A.J. would miss some time with an injury. Anytime he came back in the lineup, it was instantaneous almost. I don't think that Hopkins and Levis are that yet, but I do think that there is something to a security blanket because it's not just a new offense. These are players that he's gotten to know over the course of the last 6 months, but these are, how much time have we spent on him and Ridley trying to work out the connection between the two of them?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a talking point because then at every turn, it was like, we're going to be fine. When the games come, we're going to figure this out. And they've got 16 more games to figure it out. But, we can note that in the first game, they clearly did not have it figured out. And we were specifically talking, too, about the deep ball connection with Ridley and Levis.
Which is what he missed.
And it was right there for the taking to kill the game off, to go up 24-3 and end it. And they missed it. So it did bleed into the games. It already has. We'll see if it can get adjusted. DeAndre Hopkins' presence can be a big stabilizing factor for Levis. It can help him, sure. That's a great thing. But Levis can't need Hopkins on the field, right?
He can in his first 10 starts.
I guess so.
That's the one place, because Lucas, I'm like you. I'm not down for he's basically a rookie conversation. Get the hell out of here with that. It's 10 NFL starts. Josh Dobbs has probably not made 10 NFL starts yet.
He might not have.
He's been in the
honestly.
league since damn 2017. You know what I'm saying? Like 10 NFL starts is a quality sample size.
But I think that's just a way to talk about, which we have talked about, that blank slate type of conversation of totally new coaching staff, totally new weapons, new offensive coordinator for the 5th time in the last 5 years, or whatever it is.
He's done it before, but Hopkins is there to ease the burden, right? And so, and here's the positive, if you want a positive out of all of this, they are going to ramp Hop up more. It sounds like he's going to continue to cycle up to be more of a factor, more of a presence on the field from we said 17 snaps total that he played in this game out of 61 offensive snaps that they had against Chicago. So if he's out there for 25, does that help Will Levis kind of balance things out? Because what I will accept is, all right, new offense, new coaching staff, new pieces and parts, but that guy's the same. And that guy I know I can trust because he's got the catch radius of a 2-car garage and he's going to make me right more often than not. Now, I don't know if Hop I don't know if it's partially torn or totally torn, but I would assume it's partially torn, the MCL. Hop on an MCL, is it the same kind of player that was bailing Will Levis out of some of these interceptable balls that he was throwing last year? Remains to be seen. But I do think that there is a calming factor, even if that's not the person that he's targeting, right? It's just a calming factor to have a known commodity out there with you that you trust, that you know, and who has been in these kind of situations with you before. That I will allow for.
Fair
in
enough.
His first 10 starts.
Fair enough. And like you said, Callahan sounds like they're working towards D-Hop being closer to 100% on Sunday.
Jael says, you mean to tell me Burks is not able to replace Hopkins' productivity? He may be able to have one catch on one target for 8 yards the way that Hopkins did on Sunday, but he didn't, and you don't trust him the way that you trust DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm not saying that Will Levis doesn't trust Treylon Burks. I don't know what Will Levis' level of trust in Treylon Burks is, okay? So I'm not going to speak out of turn. But I do think that there's a significant difference in a proven commodity like Hopkins and Treylon Burks, who you're still in year 3? You're still trying to figure out what the hell he is. Whether he's just the end-around guy or whether he can actually be a routine part of your passing game. Sasquatch is up next. What's up?
Hey, Buck. I was just wondering if, let's just say that this week don't go good and D-Hop doesn't play that many snaps. Do you think that they eventually end up shutting him down and him having surgery, or do you think he's going to play the entire year? I know they're just trying to ramp up his snaps, but I'm just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, so they did that with Jeff, but that was like in week 12.
They were out of playoff contention.
You know,
it could be touch and go. We don't know the severity of it, but we're talking about a meniscus, right?
Yep.
That was the reporting from Kaharski. Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about shutting him down for surgery on a meniscus, you're probably talking about ending his season. I mean, the Derek Brown just got shut down in Carolina for the
J.J.
year
McCarthy
with a meniscus. J.J. McCarthy,
Wait,
same
was
thing.
he meniscus or MCL?
No, it was because it was like partially torn. They were going to make a determination. Will he be out for 4 to 6 weeks, which was the timeline for D-Hop, by the way, or will he be out for the season?
Hopkins is MCL.
MCL. Okay, not meniscus. Excuse me. So MCL, that was the reporting from Kaharski. Okay.
Well, I mean, Diop told him that's what was going on.
MCL, that's right.
Do I think they'll shut him down? I would be surprised, unless such time as they are clearly and obviously out of playoff contention. Because they were dead in the water. That Miami game, they were dead in the water. Was that December, end of November that they had the Monday Night Football game?
Yeah, like mathematically they were not eliminated.
They were still alive,
yes. But yeah, no.
But they were dead in the water, right?
Much.
And so the Miami game gave you something to feel good about until such time as they were mathematically eliminated, and then you beat the Jags, and for all that ended up mattering. So, Jackson tells me that the Dolphins game was December 11th. So, like I said, they were not mathematically eliminated yet, but trending in that direction. And ultimately, when they shut Jeff Simmons down in week 12 or 13, right around there, or maybe Jeff played in 12 total games. It may have been later in the season because he said the last game that he played at Nissan Stadium is the one that he got hurt in, and then he was done.
What was Jeff's injury?
Ankle.
Okay.
And that was a precautionary, hey, we're not going anywhere this year.
Right.
There's no benefit to keeping Jeff Simmons out there.
No, they're going to do everything in their power for D-Hop to help this team this season.
And also, DeAndre Hopkins has incentives in his contract. As somebody correctly points out, Chef Ryan on YouTube points out that he has incentives in his contract. So he likes his money. We all like our money. D-Hop would probably, try and, I don't know I need to go back and look through the incentives, but like if he's close to 75 catches again and 1,000 yards again or 7 touchdowns again, then yeah, he's probably going to want to play it out. 615-737-1045. Speaking of Titans players, Ernest Jones, linebacker, is going to be on the radio show with us today. I believe before practice, as a matter of fact. So we'll talk to Ernest Jones later, coming off a strong defensive performance. Now, all it says in my rundown is the week 1 quarterback performance that we're not talking enough about. Lucas has a quarterback that he feels we need to spend more time on, so we'll find out together next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Speaking of Pontoon Saloon, we had a great time out on the Pontoon Saloon, and they are going to make their maiden voyage this weekend for the tailgate situation that they've got going on. They are having people park at their marina and ride one of the pontoon boats down to Nissan Stadium from the tailgate lot that they've got set up. It's a really cool thing, really cool concept, and given that the parking is limited at best around Nissan Stadium, and I know the weather looks not ideal, but sounds like they've got a lot of people who have signed up to do the Pontoon Saloon Nashville water taxi, which is pretty interesting. Anyway, week 1 quarterback performance we're not talking about. Who have I neglected? Who am I leaving out? Who do you need to shine a light on because you feel that they have been cast aside by the NFL brain trust here?
Well, all we've talked about is quarterback struggles from week 1, which there were a lot of. And we talked about the few guys that perform well. Like we said CJ Stroud had a nice game in Indy. Josh Allen basically put the Bills on his back to come back. They were down 17-3, 17-0 at home against the Cardinals. He had 4 total touchdowns. So, we kind of hit on those guys. We did not talk about Baker Mayfield, who had the best performance by any quarterback in the NFL.
He really did. He had 4 touchdown passes, right?
He was 24 of 30 for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns, a rating of 146.4, 3 carries for 21 yards. He had the best performance of any NFL quarterback in week 1 as the Bucs beat the Commanders 37-20.
And Jaden Daniels, he put up a fight. He was making plays on the ground in particular. He scored a couple of rushing touchdowns.
2 rushing touchdowns. Didn't turn the ball over. Wasn't spectacular in the air, but, gave Commanders fans plenty of reason to be excited. But I think back to where Baker was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I got in an Uber. And Jackson, you can preemptively find me for this if you want to. Now. But, Uber drivers and delivery drivers and all of these things, they listen to the radio all day, right?
Oh, he's about to say that he got recognized in the Uber.
No, but my point is, the guy listened to the show, and so he's talking to me, and he's talking about the Titans quarterback situation, and I can't remember at what point in the 2022 season this was. And the guy said, he's like, you know what, man? Where's Baker Mayfield right now? And I was like, I can't remember if he was a backup with the Panthers or the Rams. But he was just kind of floundering around in that 2022 season. And this Uber driver said, if I'm John Robinson, I get Baker Mayfield on the phone. And I tell him, whatever you want, to come to Tennessee and be the Titans quarterback. And I'm just thinking in the back seat, like, all right, but okay, yeah, sure, Baker Mayfield, the future of the Titans quarterback, whatever. And 2 years later, I feel like I owe this Uber driver an apology.
You do?
I feel like Uber driver, I don't remember your name. I'm very, very sorry for in my head.
Find him again for this person recognizing him and me saying, I don't remember your name.
Are you really bringing up being recognized 2 years ago?
Yes.
It's a long-winded way of saying of how far Baker Mayfield has come. I owe this man an apology for not recognizing Baker Mayfield's game 2 years ago, which a lot of people didn't. But here he is coming off a career year with the Bucs, having the best week 1 performance of any quarterback in the NFL, and he's just having fun again, right? Jackson, can we hear Baker Mayfield after the game with Laura Oakman?
Can you define what that means to be fully Baker Mayfield?
Just having fun. Yes, it's our job, but football's a game, and just finding the joy in it. I play my best when I'm having fun, and this group allows me to do that, and everybody in the building. So I'm so thankful for them, and like I said, keep building and keep going.
It's all about the friends we make along the way. But Baker Mayfield gets placed in a great situation, and something clicked for him last year. The question was, will it carry over? After week 1, we got to talk about Baker Mayfield. Is he the quarterback we thought he'd be when he's drafted by the Cleveland Browns?
Let's play a game. Which quarterback do you think the Cleveland Browns would rather have? 24 of 30, 289, 1 sack for a loss of 9, 4 touchdowns, and a 146.4 quarterback rating, or for infinitely more money, 24 of 45, 169, 6 sacks for losses of 32 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 51.1. Can you tell me who the second one was?
I know they'd rather have just about anybody over Deshaun Watson right now.
Well, that has to haunt Browns fans more than any other that is a haunted franchise. A haunted franchise, okay? There's been a lot of bad things that have happened to Browns fans and I do not envy you. But of all the things to see Baker out here just killing it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And by the way, I would have absolutely had the same perspective as you did because he was not good in Carolina, though that's probably on Matt Rule. He was good enough in a spot duty when they brought him in to play that, what was it, a Thursday night football game for the Rams or something like that off the bench. He'd been acquired like 3 or 4 days before and went out there and won a football game. But even as recently as last offseason, Lucas, we were talking about that as the worst quarterback, as one of the worst teams in football. Kyle Trask versus Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. What kind of quarterback competition is that? And then all Baker does is go out there and have a career year.
And he was dropping dimes on Sunday. He was phenomenal in that game. And I can look at who the Bucs have in week 2. But if this continues to be a thing, Baker Mayfield's resurgence, Bucs go to Detroit for a noon game on Sunday. So that could be fun. But, man.
That's a huge game.
Yes, it is. Huge NFC game early in the year there. Browns fans, always going through it, just perpetually. But they handed a guy with dozens of sexual assault allegations and lawsuits $240 million in guaranteed money, and another one just popped up that he's having to ask questions about at a press conference, and he's been terrible. The best football they've played on offense in the last 2 years has been with Joe Flacco coming off the couch, and Baker Mayfield is balling in Tampa Bay.
Deshaun Watson has 3 less completions than he does civil lawsuits against him right now.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that kind of sums it up.
I shouldn't laugh because it's obviously a very serious situation, and there's a lot of people's lives who have been affected by Deshaun Watson and his misdeeds. But
Browns fans might hear this and say they had to move on from Baker. He had regressed, and there were injuries, and that might all be true. But what is Jimmy Haslam thinking right now?
Go Balls.
To be honest,
he just has Nico highlights playing in his head.
He's not even watching the Browns on Sunday. He's too busy caught up in the Vols hype.
Paid all that money for Pilot to be on the field.
Yeah, sure did. I will say that, I mean, I don't root against the Browns, but I root against Jimmy Haslam and Deshaun Watson. I really do. And maybe I shouldn't say that as a professional NFL reporter, but I have no interest in seeing either of those two individuals succeed because of what they've done here. The deal with the devil that they made for a $250 million fully guaranteed deal for a quarterback with all this baggage who has done nothing but be a laughingstock on the field since then. I'm perfectly fine to see those two flounder about, unfortunately for Browns fans. 615-737-1045 is the number. Let's go to Jason up next.
Hey, guys. I just want to chime in on the Baker thing. Last year, I mean, they were so close to beating the Lions, just to point that out there. And then on the other thing, I want to say Derek Carr, man, he had a day too. So don't leave Derek Carr out on that subject.
He threw up 3 with his hands at one of the Saints one of the Panthers defensive backs. He's like, "I've got 3 touchdowns on you." Derek Carr out there talking smack.
He did.
Excellent.
He balled on Sunday.
Trey up next.
I want to chime in on the Baker thing. Last year, I mean, they were so close to being.
Hey, Trey, I can't hear you at all. It sounds muffled. Try giving us a call back on a better phone line. 615-737-1045 if you want to jump in. Coming up next, let's talk some Vols. The Vols' best path to the college football playoff. I think our guest Mike Felder laid it out pretty cleanly early in the week, so we'll bring back some of that conversation coming up next.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans are looking ahead to the home opener Sunday against the New York Jets at Nissan Stadium. Quarterback Will Levis met with the media yesterday and said the group has been putting the Bears' loss behind them in preparation for Week 2.
I've been really impressed with how the guys have come into the building the last couple of days, fleshed it, instilling confidence in me, letting them know that they still got my back, which is great to feel and hear as a quarterback, especially after, the tough end of that game. So I'm just happy that we all have that right mindset and we're all coming in working in a professional manner, getting ready to get a win Sunday.
Brian Callahan said yesterday he believes wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins' workload will increase as he continues to get back to 100% from a knee injury. Callahan also said the expectation is that safety Jamal Adams will have a chance to play this week against his former team. In college football news, Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State announced they will join the Pac-12 in the 2026-2027 academic year, a conference which at the moment still only contains Oregon State and Washington State. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour is upon us. The Titans will soon be back on the practice field for another day of work. In fact, I assume they would be in the bubble, or at least preparing to be in the bubble, given what lies ahead. Hurricane Francine looming over everything heading into this weekend in particular. So we'll keep an eye on those things for you. We'll, of course, have coverage from Nissan Stadium on Sunday, Titans and Jets. And we are still working through the logistics of where we're going to be and if we're going to be out there and is it going to rain and do we need ponchos and should we be prepared for a lightning delay? All the fun stuff.
A lot of high school games in the area are getting moved to tonight as opposed to tomorrow night. But I think we're probably going to get rain on both.
No, we're supposed to get rain in about an hour and a half from now. And apparently between 3 and 5 inches between today and Monday. So, of course, that would impact the game between the Titans and the Jets on Sunday. But before we continue that conversation, we had Mike Felder of Stadium and Bleacher Report on the radio show on Tuesday. And we were talking about the college football playoff and the Vols' best path to and through the college football playoff. Now, I believe, Lucas, you asked him the question about winning the SEC and how important that was to obviously securing an auto bid in the college football playoff. But Felder pointed out that it may not be, in fact, that may not be the best strategy for the Vols if they are, in fact, strategizing. Of course, you would like to win the SEC. That would be a nice feather in your cap. You'd feel good about that, especially with what the SEC looks like right now. But it does not necessarily mean that it lends itself to the most amount of success or the cleanest path to and through the college football playoff, which is something that Mike Felder articulated when he was on the radio show with us on Tuesday. Let's hear from Mike.
If I'm Tennessee, I don't want to be an SEC championship contender. You know what I want to be? In the top 12. I want to be in the top 12. And I've been thinking about this. I'm actually getting ready to sit down and write this thing. Instead of doing the timing thing that I was doing on Tuesdays last year, Buck, now I'm doing it. I'm working on Tuesdays. I'm going to do something called the format, because guess what? The thing I've realized about the format, the new 12-team playoff, they don't want Notre Dame to get in at all.
Thank God.
Notre Dame could be number 1 in the country, undefeated, 12-0. They still have to go to 5. And so to flip this back to the Tennessee perspective, if I'm Tennessee, sure, maybe I lose to Georgia, or I lose a game, right? I drop a game. It doesn't matter. But I just hang around, which puts me into the playoff. And now I'm in the playoff, and let's go crazy. Let's go nuts. And I think that's the part that's been interesting to me. And just realizing like how teams are going to try to scheme game for the play, because the reality is Texas looked amazing this weekend. I don't think they're better than Georgia, but they looked amazing. So if Texas loses to Georgia in Atlanta at the Benz, what are we doing? Texas has to be 5 and Tennessee's just if I'm Tennessee, I'm like, hey man, I'll be 8, I'll be 9. I don't look, we're good. Let's do it. We lost one game this year. Like, it's fine.
All right. So I'm seeing some pushback in the chat about this because, let's see, Cameron says, no, the expectation is taking over, not sneaking through. Absolutely hated his take. And then I see, who else? Taylor H. This is a silly idea, especially with no divisions in the SEC. The runner-up is still finishing in the top 12. No, and Brandon adds, my personal favorite strategy is just to win every game.
Sure.
But you're not going to win every game this year.
You might.
Haven't lost yet.
Fair enough, and fair to expect that Kent State will not be the thing that topples your playoff dreams this weekend.
Knock on wood.
I don't think Kent State...
Look at you, knock on wood.
No, stop. I don't think Kent State has beaten an FBS opponent in like 2 calendar years.
So, in the absence of the Vols being Georgia, because they're not Georgia yet. Now, maybe you are trying to get there, but they're trying to make the college football playoff for the first time. They're trying to have a playoff team for the first time under Josh Heupel. I don't care how you get there. Just get there. Whatever strategy makes the most sense for you to have a successful college football playoff run, get there. At some point, I understand Tennessee fans are going to want, no, we're the standard. We want to be the standard. We want to be what Georgia is. We want to be what Alabama was, and we'll see what ends up becoming of Alabama in the Kalen DeBoer era. But by my estimation, and Lucas and Jackson will tell me if I'm wrong, they're not there yet. And that it is just about making the college football playoff in any way, shape, or form before you can talk about Vols dominance and feels like 98, Paul.
Yes, no matter how good you feel about this team, and Felder feels good about this team. Josh Pate said on his show the other day, the show that came out today, or last night, I should say, that he is declaring Tennessee a national championship contender after 2 weeks. Felder's point, I think, is more about the priority that certain teams are going to hold towards the conference championship game now with the new format, because the 5 highest ranked conference champs get in. The top 4 of those get a first round bye. Then you're talking about 5 through 8 getting to host 9 through 12 in the first round. So if you get to the SEC championship game, it does you no good unless you win. And you guarantee yourself, if you're the SEC champ, one of those first round buys, the SEC champ is going to be a top 4 team in the playoff. But if you lose, then you went and you played for a championship, but you lost. You didn't get anything out of it, and you played a hard-fought game right before gearing up to go to the playoffs. So I think a team like an Alabama, like a Georgia, who's had plenty of those in recent years, would be perfectly fine with saying, hey, we're good with not playing in Atlanta this week. Are you kidding? Give us a bye and give us a couple weeks to host our first round playoff game. All good with that. Now, for Tennessee, championships matter. Conference championships matter. They have not had one since 1998. I still put a very high priority on it, but I do think the importance of conference championships goes down a little bit for teams that might just be looking at it as, I'd like to have this weekend off, right? If I'm going to be in the playoff, I'm going to be in the playoff. First round bye would be great, but is it worth the risk of getting somebody hurt, of losing and having to play that game and then having to turn around and go straight into the playoff, as opposed to the 3-4 weeks off you would get between conference championships and the 4-team playoff in the last format?
And I think an atmosphere at Neyland, because you're not going to Atlanta, you get the bye week anyway, pretty much. Does it cancel it out? Would you say it cancels it out?
Well, my perspective would be, if you're a football coach, you're not thinking the way that Felder is thinking, right? As a football coach, you are fundamentally wired to just do whatever you have to do to win the next game. So it's not like Josh Heupel is going to be sitting there strategizing, hey, we don't have to go to the SEC title game to make this thing happen,
boys. We do not want to be in Atlanta this year. No. Yeah, that's not what's happening.
So let's make
They want to win every game and play for every championship they can. This is a conversation for us, not for them.
Correct. But the two of you don't seem to have the same issue that your brethren, at least on YouTube or in the live stream chat, seem to be taking with the idea of strategy. What strategy? Just win football games.
No, absolutely I'm in that boat. Believe me, if it comes down to Tennessee, who's their last big challenge. Okay, if it comes down to win at Georgia and you clinch a spot in the SEC championship game, or lose at Georgia and you go 10-2 and still probably get in, yeah, I want to win in Athens. I want to knock off the number one team in the country and go to the SEC championship for the first time since 2007. Absolutely. I'm just talking about in the big picture. It is a conversation some teams are going to have. This has happened in the 14 format. When Alabama lost in the Iron Bowl to Auburn, who went on to the SEC championship game and lost to Georgia, next thing you know, Alabama is still getting into the playoff as a 4 seed. They didn't make their conference championship. They didn't even win their division, and they're saying, we're good. We got a bye week. We're going to rest up, go to the playoff. And what happened? They won the national championship as a 4 seed that year. Believe that was the 2017 season, 2nd and 26 game in Atlanta against Georgia in the national championship. So big picture, it's a conversation we're going to be having when conference championship weekend comes around. Is it worth the risk of losing in the conference championship and losing out on that first round bye and having to play that game, or resting and knowing we're going to have a first round bye, or we're going to have home field in the playoffs and have that bye week no matter what? Absolutely. In the case of Tennessee, win every game and win the SEC if you are able to compete for it.
Can you imagine a night playoff game in Neyland?
It is the best part of the 12-team playoff that teams are going to be able to host home playoff games in all of this, because the atmosphere on college campuses is going to be electric. It's going to be electric. So listen, I want them to win as many games as humanly possible. Tennessee making a playoff run, no matter how it is that they get in or where it is that they get in, I'm for, because that's going to be a lot of fun for everybody involved. But there are some different kind of considerations that you have to take on just how this could play out, and that's all Felder's posing here is hypotheticals. He's not calling Josh Heupel up and being like, "Hey, you want the best plan to make the college football playoff? I got it for you right here." No, this is a hypothetical situation for people like us to talk about and say, all right, what actually makes the most sense? What's viable? What's the most viable path for the Vols to get to the college football playoff? And there's a couple of different options on the table.
Taylor in the F&M Bank chat says, do we think a 10-2 Tennessee or Ole Miss then lose to, say, Georgia in the title game, that the team that didn't play in the title game would jump that other team?
Ooh.
I think yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there could be that scenario. Absolutely, especially given how that game goes. If things spiral in the second half, if Ole Miss gets into the title game, the SEC title game, over Tennessee, and Ole Miss gets run by Georgia, absolutely there's a scenario where Tennessee jumps Ole Miss in the rankings.
Because everything else is still being done as it was in the 14 college playoff, right? Like, it's still the committee that's deciding these things.
Yes.
And so that arbitrary level of...
there's more like automatic. There are automatic qualifiers. Like, if you win your conference and you are one of the 5... So if you win a power conference, you are in, and you probably have a first-round bye.
What if you have an injury? Could we see another Jordan Travis? Like, Ole Miss goes to the playoff, or the SEC championship, Jackson Dart gets hurt.
We hope not.
Right.
But
we hope not, but it's a scenario.
That is what we're talking about here. Yes, that is what we're talking about, where there are going to be fan bases, usually, of teams that are used to winning conference championships saying, hey, we're good. We've got plenty of these. Like, do not risk Jalen Milroe in the SEC championship game. Do not risk it. I don't want to play the SEC championship game. I want to be on the playoff. I don't want to risk him in this game right before the playoff starts. I totally get that perspective.
615-737-1045, the number. Let's talk about the Pac-12. It's trying to pull itself back together. We'll tell you the latest on Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. We'll take your phone calls here in just a second. So the sad Pac-2 had their media days, if you'll remember, right around the same time as the SEC, the Big Ten, and the remaining Power 4 conferences. And they had it at kind of looked like a lounge type of setting. The commissioner was making jokes about, we have an open bar. If anybody deserved a drink, it's the Pac-12, all these things. And then the news comes out that the Pac-12 is starting to put itself back together. It's going to acquire 4 Mountain West schools: Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State. So all the state schools.
And they join Oregon State and Washington State. So it's time to rename it the Pac State.
The Pac State.
Yes.
Pac State.
Utah State, New Mexico State, everybody. Come on.
Come on down.
Who else? Who else we got?
So
Arizona State, get out of the Big 12. Come on.
The Arizona State in the Big 12 is weird. But
get out of there.
The schools officially join on July 1st, 2026. And this is after conference realignment. I mean, the Pac-12 was decimated by conference realignment more than any other conference. This is, people are still cursing. Was it Larry Scott, the former commissioner?
Yep.
Of the Pac-12 for the television rights deals that he did or did not do that ultimately led to the Pac-12 being one of the most from a revenue standpoint, one of the most underperforming Power 5 conferences that they had, just leaning on Oregon and Utah and Washington, these kind of teams that jump ship for the Big Ten. Wait, where's Utah? Utah not a Big Ten school.
Big 12.
Big 12.
Yeah. I thought you were asking like geographically. I was like, it's up there by the mountains.
We did that one. It's up there by them mountains over there. Throw a football clear over them mountains. Anyway, decimated by conference realignment. I don't know what other options that they had. It was either fold the Pac-12 or try and find new membership, which I don't know. Was there ever any real concern that they weren't going to be able to get new members to the Pac-12? Because the thing that the ACC is dealing with right now with Florida State and Clemson trying to sue their way out of the conference, although that doesn't necessarily look like the best idea for them at present. And what happened to the Pac-12 is there's just so much more money to be made with better television deals. And the Pac-12 had and the ACC has one of the worst television deals relating to revenue comparative to the Big Ten and the SEC, of course. But it was never really a question to me as to whether the Pac-12 could pull itself up off the mat, because this is a constant thing. Conference realignment feels like an annual thing at this point. Now, maybe not to the degree that we've seen it, but you're always seeing teams like Western Kentucky or MTSU has recently changed conferences in the last couple of years, right? Moving into better conference situations to get better television dollars, to improve their athletic department, all these different things. So I always thought that this was the direction that the Pac-12 was probably going to head, no?
Yes, and it's a fight for survival at this point now for the Mountain West, right? Who would probably be more likely to fold or gobble up, schools that are even further down on the ladder. So 6 schools now total in the Pac-12. So it's the Pac-6, essentially. Let's just get 2 more in there, bring it back up to the Pac-8. Time is a flat circle, make it what it was in the 60s and 70s with the Pac-8. But they're each going to have to pay $17 million in an exit fee to the Mountain West to get out a year early. And it's good for them that it's only a year early because their current deal with the Mountain West ends in 2026 or runs through 2026. I love this. And it feels like the Pac-12 is now the only conference that gives a damn about geography. The only one left where geography has gone totally out the window, and Stanford's in the ACC and UCLA's in the Big Ten and all of these things. Even the SEC, you could argue, is the power conference with the most geographic nature, if you want to call Texas. Do we call Texas a southeastern state?
No,
not really. But
it's kind of close.
They're at least not going all the way to the Pacific Coast.
Louisiana isn't either, as you've always pointed out to me, or have you recently pointed out to me.
What do you mean?
Southeastern?
But Louisiana is the South. When you talk about the South, you talk about Louisiana. When you talk about the South, people don't really think of Texas. Texas is kind of Texas.
I don't know why I don't think of Florida when you say the South.
No, Florida is the South.
Well,
yeah, you think of Miami.
I think of Miami.
Yeah, you think about a bunch of rich Northerners kicking it in Miami. No. Florida is the South.
I know. That's not the rich Northerners. It's all my Cuban buddies down there.
I like this for the Pac-12. I like geography being a factor again. Boise State's a really good program. So, do we get to call it a power conference though? Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Oregon State, Washington State, and San Diego State. Some good games in that conference this week, by the way.
I mean, Boise State has, and I don't know, they haven't been what they were with Kellen Moore at quarterback and all that, where they had like a legitimate run. Boise State has had moments of competency. Oregon State has had moments of competency. Washington State has had moments of better than competency, obviously. So, I mean, yeah, it's if the Pac-12 or whatever it ends up being called, if it's the Pac-8, if it's the Pac-10, whatever they end up, because they have to get to 8 by, you said 2026, right? For this to be viable.
What do you mean they have to get to 8?
In the reporting from Chris Vanini of The Athletic, and let me see if I can find it. The Pac-12 would still need to get to 8 schools by 2026 by adding the 4 top targets here to create a core. The further needed expansion could then go a few different ways on a quicker timeline. So it sounds like they need to get to 8 for all this to be viable. And if they do, in fact, get to 8, then yes, I do consider them I do consider them to be a power conference again, because the Pac-12 is a 100-plus-year-old conference.
Okay, so the NCAA bylaws provide conferences with a 2-year grace period to get back to a minimum of 8. So that, yes, that makes sense.
Is this just going to become a Mountain West rebrand?
No, we talk about how they're keeping the geography. It is decently geographical now. There's Colorado and California and Washington and Idaho, but they're probably going to have to go pluck someone from the American, right?
It's going to look less geographic than it does right now.
Like, does the Pac-12 call up Memphis, you know? Does the Pac-12, you're making a face like Memphis isn't one of the best options they would have.
No, I'm just saying, like, I hate the lack of geographic symmetry to all this. Like, I hate the Big Ten right now, even though I like the idea.
No, you don't. What are you talking about? You were so happy. USC and UCLA get to play Michigan and Texas, or not Texas, but get to play Michigan and Ohio State in Big Ten games. Yes, give me the best teams and the biggest teams in the same conference.
Sure,
I don't care about tradition and geography. This is what you
tradition. I don't care about tradition. I do care about geography, because it's like it's one of these weird quirks. Like, I don't like that the running backs wear 2 now. I don't like that the linebackers wear 23 in the NFL. Like, it's something aesthetically bothers me about that. The football itself, you're right. I like the idea that IU as an alumni is going to play UCLA in basketball as a part of conference play. I do like that. But the geography, it irks me. It not enough to change my consuming habits or my viewing habits, but it irks me. So Memphis in the Pac-12 would be something like that. Like, it would bother me. I would go on with my life. Now, I would not be any worse for the wear, and the Pac-12 would be better for having Memphis in it. But I wouldn't love just the geographic lack of symmetry there.
It's funny you said that, because Indiana and UCLA play this weekend in a Big Ten football game.
Yeah.
Some great games in the new and improved Pac-12, which I know won't be new and improved for a couple of years, but you got the Apple Cup, Washington State. Always a good rivalry. Utah and Utah State. Utah State kind of getting left in the dust here. Did Utah State not get the call?
Well, they were not, again, according to the reporting of the New York Times and The Athletic, the relationship between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West has been very icy here recently, as they've tried to, steal the 4 biggest properties that the Mountain West has, and they were considered, according to Chris Vanini, considered the biggest and most important targets for the Pac-12, with future additions to be hammered out after creating that core. So, you've already got Stanford and Cal in the ACC. Those are not options for you. Florida State and Clemson, is there anything to indicate that, one, they'd be able to get out of the ACC?
We're not ready to have that conversation.
What do you mean, stop? You just put Memphis in the Pac-12. Florida State and Clemson is too far to reach.
To act like the Pac-12 would be a better option for Florida State and Clemson is hilarious.
Oh, I'm not saying that it would be a better option. I don't know that the ACC is going to want to keep them after all of this. Now, the ACC is obviously trying to do the same thing that all these other conferences are doing. But if you're the ACC, what's the whole story around Florida State is that they're not a good partner. That's something that's been talked about. If the ACC just decides, okay, you want to sue us, get out. Just go flounder about in mediocrity somewhere out in the Pac-12, boys, or wherever they would.
No,
they would
it's
end
quite
up
the opposite.
theoretically.
The ACC is saying you're not going anywhere. Yeah. We're keeping you right there, and you can't do anything about it.
People are saying that the Big Ten should just be called Big.
Yeah, it is funny how it's a risky move. Just from here on out, if anybody's thinking about starting up a new conference, just don't put the number of teams in the name.
Yeah,
just don't. It's just not a sustainable thing to do.
The Big.
Yeah, just that's
the Big.
I don't know about that.
I don't like that either.
But yeah, Pac-12. Maybe figure something else out with the fluctuation that we're seeing. If I'm not mistaken, the Big 12 might actually be 12 at this point. I think it might be the only accurate conference name. But SEC and ACC at least don't have that.
So we're going to take a break now because Ernest Jones is going to join us at 11:35, the Titans linebacker. So we'll look forward to talking to him about a successful day for the defense against the Bears. What?
I was wrong. The Big 12's up to 16. So, yeah, none of it is accurate.
Okay, very good. We will ask Ernest Jones about getting ready for the Jets and his role within this Titans defense coming up next. Welcome back to the show. Ernest Jones, Titans linebacker, will join us here in just a little bit. Meantime, we got some time for phone calls, 615-737-1045. Let's go to Trey up next. You've been waiting patiently.
That's a great point.
I concur.
Why didn't we think about it that way?
Oh, no. Do you think you forgot? Do you think we write it out? Maybe we hear some awkward conversation in the background. We go full Fox Sports Knoxville with some woman threatening to leave her husband over the result of a Vols game.
Oh, I yearn for a call like that.
We've gotten calls like that. What do you mean? You want more?
Yeah, who was it? I think I had just started here when y'all had that one. They were talking about, gas prices and things like that.
Oh, Bill in Lebanon, I think it was, talking about the economy being in shambles.
Oh, Bill in Lebanon was just when it was just you and me.
Yeah.
When times were simpler then.
Yeah.
So we will try to let the phone callers redeem themselves later on in the segment. But Ernest Jones will join us here in just a moment. Titans defense obviously coming off a really strong performance in week one, but of course, it's not just one phase of the football. They're trying to put together a complete performance before the Jets come in here on Sunday for the home opener at Nissan Stadium. Ernest, we appreciate you jumping on here, and thanks for taking some time. How much are you looking forward to debuting at Nissan Stadium now that you've gotten used to the new threads, you've gotten used to the new teammates, new situation? How much are you looking forward to the home game?
No, I'm super excited. I expect it to be loud, to be rocking. My family's excited for their first game in Nissan Stadium. So, I mean, for me, it's just full of excitement, ready to get out there in front of the home crowd and represent.
You bring up your family. You're Ernest Jones the fourth. Do you have anything notable about the other three Ernest Jones who have come before you? Because I know that family name and that fourth to you is pretty important from what I understand.
No, it's definitely important, but we're just I guess you would say just men of just loyalty, honor, integrity. We just carry our name and pride with our name. So just overall, great group of guys.
Ernest Jones hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So again, not the way that you wanted Sunday to go, but the defense did have a really strong performance. From your standpoint, how has the acclimation process gone? Because it's not a very similar system from what you guys were running in Los Angeles to what Denard does here.
Yes, for sure. It's been a big adjustment, just learning the plays. It's mainly been the terminology. I mean, football is kind of similar. If it's cover 3-2, you kind of do similar things, but just terminology and the way these guys like to play it here was really different. So that first week and those first couple of days I'd been here, just trying to hone in on the basics. Got a few reps last week, but now I feel really comfortable in the plays and in the playbook. So I'm excited about where we go from here.
When you demolish another player the way that you did to that Chicago Bears center, do you pick him up afterwards and say, "I'm so sorry. I hope that wasn't as unpleasant for you as it looked"? Like, what is that conversation like? Because you went out there and kicked that dude's ass.
Yeah, so me and Coleman played together in L.A. So I mean, I consider him a friend. So we talked about it after it, and we joked about it. And for me, he's a friend, so I won't bash it in or brag about it too much. But I just go out there trying to execute.
Well, and that was absolutely. I mean, it saved a touchdown. That was a huge. Again, I know you guys came up short. But that was a huge play that you guys ultimately end up saving, because you see that little knife route that Keenan Allen's trying to run, and Caleb Williams has the ability to get it there if you're not immediately in his face on that. Looked like a simulated pressure there. Hell, Sweat almost looked like he came up with the interception.
Right. Yeah, that would have been crazy if Big Sweat could have picked that interception up.
So you've played behind talented defensive linemen before, obviously, with your time in Los Angeles and Aaron Donald. To have Jeff and Sweat and the entire collection of them, but those two guys in particular have some really special abilities to how much more freely does that allow you to play in the second level?
It allows me to play super free. Those guys are monsters. So, I mean, the O-line has to take care of those guys. You can't just allow them to wreak havoc or they'll make a lot of negative plays. So, for me, that's just making sure I'm right in the film room, knowing where they're going to be so I know where my plays can come from. But those guys, they're monsters. They cause problems up front, so I'm glad to be playing behind them.
How good can this defense be this year?
I really do think we could be the best. We just got to continue to make plays. We got to get the ball off teams, get rid of the minor mistakes, and I think we can truly be one of the best, if not the best, in the entire football league.
So what about this group? Because it's a lot of talented players, Ernest, and this is my 8th season covering the Titans. This is a significantly different group than the one that they fielded last year. They've acquired players in all different manners to come in here, including yourself, L'Jarius Sneed, a variety of different guys to put this thing over the top. What is it about this group and the way that you guys think you'll be able to coalesce? Because it's not just about the talent, it's about how you guys perform as a unit with skill.
I think for the most part, is like in that defensive room. I mean, it's the want to. The guys have the same goal in mind, and it's just not the coaches talk about being the best. It's players talking about wanting to be the best at their own position, and in turn, that'll make the entire defense, just that much better. So I think it's the mindset. Guys are focused on defense. We're focused on, if offenses can't score, then we got a higher chance of winning. So we're just super excited about the challenges we get each and every week to go out and shut these offenses down.
Well, certainly this week figures to be a challenge, regardless of how old Aaron Rodgers is at this point in his career. He's one of the most talented throwers of the football this league arguably has ever seen, and you're not going to be able to fool him, one would imagine, the way that it might be more effective against a rookie quarterback, for example, in Caleb Williams. So how do you manage a situation like that? Is it just about trying to slow him down because he's going to get some plays on you?
Yeah, it's about slowing him down. Rodgers has been doing it a while, so he knows, he's seen all the defenses, so it's disguising, just making sure you don't give him a clear picture early on, but after that, I mean, he has to execute, and so do we. So we just feel comfortable knowing that if we go out there and we play our best, we think that, that's good enough to get a win against anybody.
Ernest Jones, the 4th Titans linebacker, hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Team getting ready to head back out on the practice field here in just a little bit. From that standpoint, what kind of stands out about him on film? Because in this Jets offense, and it is his offense for all intents and purposes, he hasn't gotten the opportunity to work with the guys that he's out there with a whole bunch, with the Achilles injury happening so early on in last season, his first with the Jets. What kind of stood out from that Niners tape?
His command. You could tell it's still the same Aaron Rodgers. His command over the offense. He knows where everybody needs to be. He's making checks at the line. So, I mean, for the most part, the connection and all of that he'll have with the receivers, hopefully we don't allow that to happen this week for them to start getting a connection. But I just think, like I said earlier, if we go out there and execute to the best of our ability, I feel real confident in the players that on the back end, those in the front, and the linebackers. So sky's the limit.
Well, I don't know if Puff briefed you before you got volunteered to do the radio show, Ernest, or maybe Arden, but we do a game show rapid fire segment here. Are you ready for some quick questions?
Let's do it.
All right, give me the crappy game show music. Let's go.
All right, Ernest, really appreciate you just struggling through that joint of the interview with Buck. I know it was tough for you. And,
I do the boring questions. He does the fun questions, Ernest.
Yeah, now we can lighten it up a little bit. You mentioned your family maybe being able to come to the game on Sunday. Can you take us through their reaction when you informed them that you are signing with the Tennessee Titans and coming closer to your home in Georgia?
Oh, man, everyone was super excited to get me back on this side of the world, in a sense, and be closer to them so they don't have to travel hours to the game. So everyone was just super excited and looking forward to coming to these games.
Strike one against the fun questions. Ernest was acquired via trade, not signed as a free agent. Bad job out of Lucas.
But he did sign a piece of paper, did he not?
I don't know. Did you? You didn't sign anything.
Do you sign a piece of paper?
You don't sign anything when you get traded, right? That's not a thing.
You don't sign anything.
Yeah, see, dummy, keep it going.
At least on an apartment.
Stop wasting this man's time.
Ernest Jones, the biggest difference between living in Los Angeles and Nashville?
The taxes.
Yeah, that's a correct answer. Correct answer.
Your rookie year, 2021, after being drafted out of South Carolina, you finished the season Super Bowl champion, which is crazy, but wild ride for you, right? In that 2021 season where you got hurt, you came back for the NFC Championship game, and then you led the team in tackles in the Super Bowl in that win over the Bengals. You had a sack, a huge performance. Can you take us back? What was it like to win a Super Bowl in that fashion as a rookie?
Oh, man, it's crazy. It's still surreal, honestly. I I still can't even go back and watch the Super Bowl game because I'm still just so nervous. Like, did we win? It was just a roller coaster of emotions, honestly.
How hard is that week, Ernest? Because it's the one game, right? Super Bowl media days is obviously a cluster. There's a million different things that you don't account for that would not be a part of the normal preparation for any other game. What kind of madhouse is it actually in the lead up?
Oh yeah, it's a madhouse for sure. Just media on top of media, just traveling. Early to the games. Luckily for us, we were in LA at SoFi Stadium, so we didn't have to travel much. Just a lot of media, and it's more about the actions of the game of the Super Bowl, other than the actual game itself. So it's a madhouse.
You go from being teammates with the starting quarterback who has been in this league a long time, has seen everything in Matt Stafford, to Will Levis, obviously year 2, younger guy. After a tough performance by a quarterback, Ernest, what is the difference in kind of picking up a teammate that had a bad game as a veteran versus a guy like Will Levis who's still young and kind of making his way in this league?
Well, veterans, they've had these games before. Matthew's had his share of rough games, so he's had the opportunity to learn. For Will, he's still young, he's still learning. So for him, it'll be a little harder for him. I think with younger guys, you have to, be in their ear. Defense has to continue to just make plays for him, but offensively, those guys have to, make sure he knows that they still got his back, and we still got his back here no matter what, and we're ready to roll with him against the Jets.
Well, speaking of Will Levis, your boys at South Carolina kind of put a beating on his Kentucky Wildcats over the weekend. I mean, was it? Yeah,
Beat them down.
It was drastic, Ernest. Was there any sort of locker room bet there between you and Will?
No, I left him alone because honestly, I wasn't sure how South Carolina was going to do.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Do you have a biggest locker room rival now that you're with the Titans as a former South Carolina Gamecock?
I think we got a few Georgia guys on, so we're always talking trash about what part of Georgia's the better part for football. But as far as like college, if you play for Clemson, I automatically despise you.
That's completely fair. More hate in sports. It's a natural thing. Except Jeff and that damn cowbell, Ernest. I mean, I know he's got it with him everywhere that he goes.
Everywhere.
I don't think there's a Clemson alum in the Titans locker room. Was there one with the D-Hop? Of course. Thank you, Jackson. DeAndre Hopkins. Has those conversations happened yet?
Well, it's kind of hard to even talk about him because I never beat him either, so I just despise him. I just despise him from afar.
Last one, biggest locker room trash talker at the Rams versus the best on the Titans.
Wow. That's a tough one because Arden and Jared Verse in a trash talk battle would, they probably could have their own show.
Jared Verse, even as a rookie.
Yeah, Jared Verse, he talks, man.
Like funny?
I talk.
Like funny or mean?
Funny. Yeah, just overall, just funny, man.
Some guys go for the heart though. Jeff's a mean trash talker. Arden's a funny trash talker. Ernest, we appreciate you hanging out here with us. Continued health and success. Good luck on Sunday. We'll certainly be watching.
Definitely. Thank y'all so much.
That's Ernest Jones, the 4th Titans linebacker. Kind enough to give us some of his time here today.
Man, I can't believe I forgot D-Hop at Clemson.
I can't believe you forgot that the Titans traded for Ernest Jones instead of signing him in free agency, and that Will Levis is actually older than Ernest Jones.
Which is crazy, but not in NFL years. Ernest Jones did not overlap with Levis. When he was at South Carolina, Levis was still at Penn State back in 2019, 2020.
He did a lot of smack talk about how boring my questions were, and then he was all over the road with his questions.
That's the point.
Not the best showing.
Oh, man. When I lose Jackson, I'm in trouble.
How long should the leash be for Will Levis this season? It's an interesting question, and it's coming out of just one game, but it's one question that a lot of Titans fans are asking themselves after that specific result. It was some good stuff there from Ernest Jones, the 4th as well, on how good he thinks this defense could be. We will react to all of those things here in just a second. 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Rising. The final hour is next. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is a great resource for guys who are dealing with ED. There are so many misconceptions out there about treating ED. So, in fact, I went out to the Tennessee Men's Clinic at their Franklin location to visit with them and to understand how I can help debunk some of those misconceptions. A lot of men assume that if the pills don't work, they have no other options other than irreversible surgery to treat their ED. And the sad reality is that if you go to a doctor to treat your ED, those may be the only protocols that they have available for you. Do not go through irreversible surgery to treat your ED before you have talked to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They specialize in men's sexual health issues. It's all they do, and it makes them the experts in the field. Don't trust your health to an online pharmacy, and don't feel like you're out of options. We want you to understand all your options for treating ED. The Tennessee Men's Clinic protocols are patient-centered, and customized to your needs. They have treatments for everything from low T, ED, treatments that increase size and stamina, and everything else in between. So schedule an appointment online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for their Franklin or Midtown location, or call them 615-208-9090.
11:58. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans are looking ahead to the home opener Sunday against the New York Jets at Nissan Stadium. Brian Callahan said yesterday he believes wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins' workload will increase as he continues to get back to 100% from a knee injury. Callahan also said the expectation is that safety Jamal Adams will have a chance to play this week. In college football news, the Pac-12 announced today that Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State will join the conference in 2026 officially on July 1st of 2026, joining, of course, Oregon State and Washington State. Tonight, week 2 begins with Thursday Night Football. The Dolphins host the Bills. It's an AFC East matchup. Dolphins running back Raheem Mostert is out tonight with a chest injury. Dolphins running back Devon Achane is a question mark to play as well. Kickoff is at 7:15. Westwood One coverage starts on the Zone at 7. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. Appreciate Ernest Jones, the fourth, for hanging out here with us. It was a good conversation with the Titans linebacker. If you missed any of it, check out the podcast after the fact. How long should the leash be for Will Levis? We've only played one game. Titans have only played one game. Will Levis has only made one start in 2024. And yet, it was bad enough. And the decision-making being what is most in question here has made some Titans fans waver a little bit in their belief in this particular quarterback. And it doesn't mean that he can't straighten things out. Doesn't mean that he shouldn't get every opportunity for the rest of the season to try and do so. But I do think it's an interesting question to discuss on how long you actually think this player's leash should be. Jets in week 2, nobody's talking about benching Will Levis for Mason Rudolph. And in fact, Will Levis is not getting benched for Mason Rudolph unless it becomes an utter catastrophe. And even then, I think they'd let him have the season rather than yank him.
The season, the goal of the season to me is just as much about finding out what you have in Will Levis as it is about being meaningfully competitive.
Oh, no, it's more about finding out what you have in Will Levis, because you can be meaningfully competitive for a season and still be searching for answers at the quarterback position. If you figure out Levis is more important to figure out than making the playoffs this year.
Sure, that's fair.
Absolutely. So,
for us, right?
For everybody.
For people in the building, they're worried about their jobs
not
and
in year
winning
one.
games.
Not in year one for the coaching staff.
For players in the building, they're worried about their jobs and winning games.
In the building.
Yes.
Players are different than front office and different than coaches, but players, of course. Players do not actively sign up for tanking, right? This is famously a part of the conversation around the Dolphins a couple of years ago. You also have the, Brian Flores $100,000 handshakes. Coaches do not go for that either. So, of course, they're trying to win as many games as humanly possible. People last year been out of shape because the Titans went out and beat the Jags in week 18, and you said, it'll cost them a draft spot to be able to draft Joe Alt instead of J.C. Latham or something like that. There are people that care about that. The coaches do not care about that. The coaches are trying to win football games.
Did it cost them a draft spot? I'm pretty sure that win wouldn't have changed. Would not? They wouldn't.
I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have gotten them to 5.
Yeah, it wouldn't. They wouldn't have hopped the Chargers.
I think that combined with the Dolphins win is what cost him a draft pick.
Got it.
Probably 2 games. Probably.
So, with everything that's going on right now, because I've got people in the F&M Bank chat where you can interact: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. John Hendricks saying Will Levis reminds me of Blake Bortles. Levis equals Carson Wentz. That's both coming from the same person, and you don't know that yet. Blake Bortles was a starting NFL quarterback for several seasons before a determination was made that he could no longer be a viable starting quarterback, and he ended up going on to have a nice backup career with the Rams. Wentz the same. He was a starting quarterback for a period of time. Injuries really cost him injuries did cost him the opportunity to go out there and win a Super Bowl. Nick Foles, of course, famously taking over in a big spot. But we don't know that Levis is Bortles or Wentz or Brady or, I mean, who else would you? Josh Allen, whichever quarterback you would try and compare him, I don't know who he is other than he's Will Levis, and we're still trying to figure that out. So, you put it to a poll. How much more leash are people willing to give Will Levis at Buck Rising on Twitter is where you can vote on the polls?
The question was, how many bad performances would it take for you to want the Titans to bench Will Levis?
Okay.
And the options were just one more. Like if it happens again against the Jets.
What percentage of the audience is saying just one more?
7.3%.
Okay.
The majority at the moment are at 38.5% in 2 to 5. 2 to 5 more bad, like Sunday-like against the Bears performances. 20.5% say 5 to 10. 33.6%, the second most popular vote, says give him the whole season no matter what.
I am in the mindset that he should get the whole season no matter what. That it may look catastrophic in moments. It may look good. It may look like Atlanta at some point, though it's been a long time since it's looked like Atlanta, and even Miami wasn't that, right? Miami was an ugly game until he and DeAndre Hopkins found a way to pull it out at the end. So, with that, Brian Callahan was asked about patience with Levis yesterday at his press conference when he spoke to the media. And that is something that absolutely has to be practiced and preached by coaches, by fans, by media. There is a degree of patience that's required here. So let's hear from the head coach speaking about patience with his quarterback yesterday.
You coach off of those clips, and then you hope that when the quarterbacks watch and look back and feel it, he feels the things that we're talking about, which Will does. And so now you have something to work with now that they've feel it again. They understand, and then when you make the coaching points, it makes more sense. And then you hope to see it translate. And you work on it in practice, and you drill it. And just like anything, you're always drilling something that involves your improvement in the game. We very rarely ever go out there at any position and do drill work that is just to do it. It's all very focused on how do we improve some aspect of where we're playing in the game, what we're asking guys to do. So the drill work's really important. We spend a lot of time thinking about it and how to implement it. And so that part is where you hope to see the improvement in practice. And then he's got to go do it in the game.
Somebody tweeted me, Mary Claire tweets me, okay, but Bortles got the Jags to the AFC Championship game. So Will Levis would be lucky to have an AFC Championship run the way that Jags team did. Now, really, the defense got them to the AFC Championship game. But Bortles did have some moments. Do you remember that playoff game against the Steelers where it's him and Ben Roethlisberger in a shootout?
Yeah.
Essentially, and Bortles comes out on the better for it?
Yeah, let's not do the revisionist history and act like he had no part and he was just nothing but a passenger in that season. Like, yes, that was a dominant Jags defense, but that was the 2017 season?
That sounds right.
I believe. Yeah, Bortles a part of that too, no doubt.
So, patience from Callahan, patience from the fan base, but how far does patience get you? Because here's the thing. Quarterback, there is always going to be a heightened degree of sensitivity around the quarterback. And you've already been telling Titans fans to an extent for the past, when did Mariota get drafted? 15? All right, patience. We'll figure it out with Marcus. All right, we're going to give Marcus this much leash in the 2019 season. All right, we're going to bench Marcus Mariota. We're going to bring in Tannehill. Okay, patience with Ryan Tannehill. He may not be the best quarterback in the world, but he's good enough to win meaningful games, but he's not good enough to get you over the hump to compete with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow in a big spot. You need something else. So now Titans fans have been waiting, and the Malik thing had a moment in time, but it wasn't ever real. Not real enough for Titans fans to sink their teeth into or actually get attached to. Some of you did, but that's okay. He, by the way, is starting against the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. That is going to be a fascinating situation to watch Malik Willis in Matt LaFleur's offense to see if he's anything more than what he was while he was here. But now you're telling Titans fans again, okay, patience with the young quarterback. And it's a fan base that's probably tired of hearing that around that specific position, right? Now, does that matter whether you're tired of it or not? Not really, because that's just the way that these things have to go. You can't microwave the results and all of a sudden pop out with an all-pro quarterback after hitting 30 seconds on the cycle. how many more starts before we stop saying, well, it's only his 10th start? Like, are we going to do that this whole season? Well, it's only his 17th start. It's only his 19th start in an NFL season. Because at a certain point, I don't want to do it's only his X start.
Yeah, what's the statute of limitations on the rookie benefit of the doubt on Will Levis?
Well, here's the thing, okay? Because it is his 10th start, but it's his first in a new offensive system. So I'm going to give him 4 more. I'm going to give him five starts in this new offense before my position on that is expired, and it's all right. No more about how few starts he's had. It's enough of a sample size for me to say, okay, go out there and improve, or don't and get out of here.
I mean, yes, but the context is very important in those games, because if you put out performances and mental collapses like what happened in Chicago 2 to 3 more times in the next 5 games, it'll be less than 5 games before people are reaching a conclusion on that.
That's the thing. So Sunday, for example, where the weather is expected to be less than ideal and the passing, it's not going to lend itself to favorable passing offense for either quarterback in this situation. We then, if we come out of this and it's a rain game, right? And it's sloppy enough to where everybody's making mistakes. You've missed an opportunity to evaluate Levis, right? You can't really evaluate the Titans offense or Will Levis if the conditions are such that he can't operate, right? That either of them can operate. It's almost a throwaway game. So you're already running out of these opportunities to evaluate him if that's the way that these things start to go. And then all of a sudden you're in his 3rd start of a season. It's against a quality team. And, well, we'll see what Green Bay looks like with the quarterback situation, because Jordan Love was not put on IR. But how many more opportunities do you say, yeah, but this happened, so it's not really a great opportunity to evaluate Will Levis? Because we're already getting into that mode. With the Mariota stuff, and you were still in college when Mariota was the quarterback, right?
Yes. I made my way over here as that time was pretty much running out.
When was your first year?
I mean, I graduated in 18, so I joined the Zone as a part-time, promotions guy in 2019. So the 2019 season AFC Championship run.
So with Marcus, and I don't know, because you're a Titans fan, I don't know how you processed Marcus, but I remember feeling after the fact that I had made too many excuses for him while he was the quarterback. Like, that I wasn't really hearing the fan base on what it was that they were saying, that they, because there were a million different reasons that Marcus struggled, right? He's dealing with injury. Okay. Then the roster falls apart. Okay. Then you've got a coach that's not necessarily helping you, so you fire Ken Wisenhunt, you bring in Mike Mularkey. Okay. Then all of a sudden, Terry Robisky is not good enough to be your offensive coordinator, and 80% of your offense is predicated off Marcus's ability to run. You're saying, all right, what's a fair way to evaluate Marcus? And then it was too late. Marcus was done. Like, Marcus was done before I got to the point where I thought Marcus should have been done, if that makes any sense. So I don't want to have another situation where I'm evaluating the quarterback, but we drag it out for so long that it becomes, well, are we making excuses? Or are these legitimate explanations for why this thing cannot function the way that you expect it to function? That's what I fear most with Levis, is that we're going to get, and I've used this term before, Mariota'd here a little bit, in seeing enough in certain moments to buy him additional time, whether it's Marcus against the Jags, it's stiff-arming Barry Church into the surface of the sun, and all these different moments, these moments in time that prolong the Marcus experiment longer than it probably should have been prolonged.
I think Marcus's leash, however long it was, I think Levis's will be shorter no matter what amongst the fan base. Marcus was the number 2 overall pick, who easily could have been the number 1 overall pick if the Bucs decided to go in that direction. Marcus was a Heisman Trophy winner. All of those expectations, we talk about it all the time. Those first-round picks are going to get the longer leash. They're going to get the next opportunity and the next opportunity. With Will Levis, for most people, regardless of Vol's bias or not, the opinion on Levis coming out was not that favorable for a lot of people. For you included. You wanted Will Levis here because you wanted the fan base to freak out when the Titans drafted him. Like, that's the biggest reason you didn't want the Titans to draft Will Levis, because you thought he was a great prospect.
I wanted fun sports talk radio. Correct.
So, like we talked about coming into the season, why is nobody talking about Will Levis? Because he has not gotten the chance to do enough and has not done enough coming into the season to change the minds of anybody that didn't like him coming out that doesn't really pay that close of attention to the Titans, right? So that is still going to be in the back of people's minds until Will Levis proves otherwise consistently. Not a one-game sample size like Atlanta, but stringing together games that get people to come around and say, okay, he's not what I thought he was coming out of the draft.
I'm so happy that we have an audience that holds us accountable. You see Thomas West's comment in there?
No.
No? Are you blind?
What's it on? Is it on YouTube?
We need to get it's on the same thing that you have all of the live stream comments right there.
I don't see him. Where is he?
It's on YouTube. He says, speaking of opportunity, what happened to Caleb Farley?
Damn. Yeah, I shouldn't have brought that up. I was thinking that as I brought. Caleb Farley worked out with the Patriots and is still out there.
Yes.
He is still out there.
But not on a practice squad or an active roster, which means that you are going to have to come to the radio show. Or did we say a day or a full week?
It was a full week of Kentucky gear, and I believe that starts Monday.
Oh, Jackson's declared it starts Monday.
Well, when is Kentucky week? Because I want Lucas on the week that the Vols play Kentucky to have to wear Kentucky.
That's a long time from now.
Is it a long time from now?
It's in November.
It's first weekend of November.
Oh, there's 0% chance that I'll remember that.
Is the Kentucky game.
I can write it down.
That would make more sense to do it then. Yes, I will own up. I will own it.
Although I do believe that is the week of Halloween, and I think he'll try to weasel out and say, oh, it's just a Halloween costume.
It's November 2nd. The game is November 2nd.
Yes, but if we do it Kentucky week, the show of Halloween, you would be wearing Kentucky gear.
That's true. That'll be Thursday of that week is Halloween.
All right. Why don't we work out the logistics off the air? We'll take more of your phone calls coming up next. 615-737-1045. Also, Jamal Adams, he was inactive for week 1 against the Bears. He has thoughts about facing his former team, the team that drafted him as a first-round pick not so many years ago. You'll hear from him coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We'll take your phone calls, 615-737-1045, the number. Let's start with Dennis, who's up first. Hey, Dennis.
Good afternoon, Buck. I want to talk about the narrative around Will Levis. I spent 20 years in the Air Force, and we had a rating system that went sort of like this. You did something good, you got an attaboy. You did something bad, you got something, for radio purposes, we'll call it an Asciano. Okay? It seems to me that Will had his Asciano moment, okay? Let's just for a second play a game. Eradicate 2 plays from that game, the block punt, run back, and the pick 6. What now is the narrative surrounding Will Levis? I think we'd be talking about the 2 successful drives he had. Unfortunately, he had his terrible, terrible Asciano moment. Hey, but remember this, Tom Brady left New England on an Asciano moment as well.
He did.
That's what I got.
Logan Ryan, I was there.
He did, but he won 6 Super Bowls before that.
Yeah, I don't love the Levis and Brady comparison, even though they, Levis looks up to Tom Brady, and Brady has honestly taken an interest in Will Levis, which is pretty good to see if you're a Titans fan rooting for his success. Because
it's a good point by Dennis.
Well, I do appreciate the nuance to that, but and I can't operate in the hypotheticals, right? What if he didn't make the play? Well, then it's a completely different week of discourse among us, because if he didn't make the play, then did they win the game? All this stuff, or did they lose the game because he's missing opportunities? Because he did miss other opportunities that are less glaring and less hurtful, but we're still having conversations about his comfort level in the offense.
Oh, yeah.
His decision-making and his accuracy, which is the whole thing.
No, we've talked about this. Like, if the Titans win, if the pick 6 or the block punt doesn't happen, we're talking about a gut check win. Titans won ugly, defense dominated. Levis wasn't great. Some things to build on, some things you got to improve, but you got it done. You got it done. But we're not talking about that. But I see what he's saying in that it's easier for people when it's 2 mistakes like that, 2 very clear-cut mistakes that are correctable. Can they be corrected? For him is a question we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like, can that moment be coached out of him, going down, getting sacked on 3rd and long, and trying to shovel the ball out of bounds? We don't know yet. But it is correctable. Like, it is. Unarguably, it is a correctable, inarguably correct, you're right. It is a correctable mistake to just not do that, to just take the sack. Like, that's not a thing about talent or whether or not you're not able to make a play.
No, but it's
just
not.
Don't do that.
I don't. I'm tired of talking about talent with unrealized potential, because they've had plenty of players. Traylon Burks is a player with talent, but unrealized potential.
What I'm saying is that play had nothing to do with talent, potential. It's just don't do that.
Yeah, it's just a boneheaded play. It's what he said it was. It's a boneheaded play.
Just get sacked. That's it. That's what you do in that scenario.
It's not quite as it's for us. It's akin to Lucas and I forgetting to turn on our microphones when we're trying to talk during 3 hours of live radio, which happens way more often than not. You would think that would be correctable, and yet here we are still doing it.
Well, like, what's the thing that we talk about with Levis since the very beginning on protecting himself, right? Protecting himself while he's running the football.
As far as his physical well-being, he hasn't corrected that yet, though.
Yeah, and that is a fair point. So a 10-game sample size
is enough for me to say, take better care of yourself. You're still not doing it the way that you said you would.
Did you think that was an issue in Chicago? Like because there's one first down run he had where he kind of needed every bit of it.
And he explained that one away yesterday.
Yeah, but there was the 1-2 where he took the shot, where he's kind of going between 2 Browns players. He's got the first down. I've done that
6 times.
So many times this week.
I know.
But the way he kind of just...
We'll get you through it. It's okay.
He almost just turns and launches his body at the Bears player and takes a big shot into the middle of his back.
It looked like his back/ribs, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. That's his brain trying to compute in real time, what do I do here? It's the Niners play. It's him on the goal line against the San Francisco 49ers where he's thinking about jumping, but he hesitates just long enough to not slide, but to go down, get smoked by the safety.
Still takes a hit.
Takes the hit, and then also is dealing with not just the hit from the defender, but he's bouncing off the turf because the defender hits him. So I can use that as a sample size of, he has talked about this before. We have talked to him about this before. His coaches, multiple coaches, 2 different head coaches now, have talked to him about protecting himself, and he's still not doing it adequately. Does that mean that he's going to throw another ridiculous pick six to end the game against the Jets the way that he did against the Bears? I don't know. But it's a part of the sample size, it's a part of the profile that you're building on this quarterback. You don't have a finished profile. You don't know what he is yet. That's the whole point of this season, to try and figure it out. But that he is slow to adjust that specific element of it can give you pause on, all right, is he going to take as long to adjust the rest of these things that he has talked about needing to correct, but still hasn't made those corrections?
Because Josh Allen also hasn't made the corrections, as it's pointed out in the F&M Bank chat, but Josh Allen does a million other things.
And Josh Allen is also a superhuman.
Yeah, and he's also one of the best runners of the football at the quarterback position in the NFL.
We're going to go through this more in detail tomorrow, because somebody with the Titans texted me and said, I know it's not a one-to-one comparison, but Josh Allen and Will Levis have a lot of similarities. Have you looked at Josh Allen's first 10 starts? So I said, no, I haven't. I'll go back and look. And I started doing that over the course of the last couple of days. And I will tell you, the Josh Allen experience is night and day different from who he is right now. But also, Will Levis is further ahead at the quarterback position than Josh Allen was coming out as a former first-round pick from Wyoming.
And Allen still turns the ball over pretty frequently, but he does some amazing things in between.
Well, yeah, because he's still got YOLO Josh Allen in him, but it doesn't matter when he has YOLO Josh Allen moments, because it was catastrophic in the early going. And it probably took Josh about 3 years, to be honest with you, to iron a lot of that stuff out before, because now his accuracy is night and day different. His touch on the ball is night and day different. Because for a while, he's just ripping 60-yard passes through the air, trying to throw it through a receiver, trying to throw it through a defender and a receiver to try and get the ball down the field. Like, there are some comparisons that are apt. There are some comparisons that are not. And honestly, if you looked at Will Levis's first 10 starts and looked at Josh Allen's first 10 starts, you would say that Levis is the better player.
Well, Levis older coming out than Allen was. Allen was, I think, 22 when he was drafted. And Allen played at Wyoming, did not have the type of coaching that Will Levis did in the SEC. There is something to that as well.
So,
like, Liam Cohen is an NFL offensive coordinator.
Yes.
Levis is OC in 2021.
So we'll have a more full accounting of Levis's first 10 starts versus Josh Allen's first 10 starts tomorrow on the radio show. Coach Mack will also join us, but still, some interesting things to keep an eye on there. Ryan is up next. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good.
Man, I like Levis as far as right now. I'm with you, Buck. I don't think we know enough yet. I think the things like slide in and not throwing your body at 400-pound defensive linemen can be taught out of him eventually, especially when he starts missing games and missing paychecks. But to me, the thing that's more concerning is not the pick six at the end of the game and it being forced, but is him overthrowing Ridley down the sideline on the deep ball. Like, he can learn not to force that ball in, to take the sack, to live for the next down. But is he going to be able to learn to accurately throw the ball 40 yards down the field? And it wasn't even close. It's 4 yards out of bounds. That, to me, concerned me more. But I also think we need to take a page out of he who should not be named. That's going to be, playing on the other side of the field at quarterback this Sunday. We just need to relax. Just relax.
RELAX. Thanks for the call, Ryan.
He who should not be named.
Well, we went through that. That's our bit.
The Rodgers thing?
Yeah, we were calling him he who must not be named after the whole darkness retreat thing.
Oh, that's right.
Keep up with the show. Come on.
Forgot about that. That was a long time ago.
Not that long ago. Like 2 years ago.
Darkness retreat?
Darkness retreat was like 2 off seasons ago.
That's a long time, man. That's a long time. That is
Who did they play last week? The Browns or the Bears?
Oh, the Bears.
I think the darkness retreat, that was last year.
Yeah, it was before, because that was the decision to retire or play for the New York Jets.
Unbelievable.
Oh, we are living in a simulation.
Speaking of guys who played for the New York Jets or played for the New York Jets, Jamal Adams. He was unavailable in week 1 against Chicago. The Titans defense did not seem to miss him against Caleb Williams, but you'd rather have as many pieces and parts as possible before you go in facing a former All-Pro MVP quarterback. And Jamal Adams sounds like he's going to be available. This was him in the locker room yesterday.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'll be ready to go.
Excited to go against your
former team, I would imagine. I mean, super excited, but I'm excited because it's the next opportunity, man, and I get to be back on the field. So that's what I'm excited for.
So he's excited to get back out on the field. The role that Jamal Adams has. Well, here's two questions that I have about the Titans defense before they play the Jets. One, what's the division of labor between Ernest Jones IV and Jack Gibbons? Because Jack Gibbons should see less of the snaps in week 2 than he did in week 1. Ernest Jones should see the bulk of them.
Denard Wilson says he will.
And that makes the most sense.
He said he will play more this week, just now with the media. 2,
pressure packages. How much was Ernest Jones kind of doing the same kind of stuff that they envisioned for Jamal Adams in these pressure packages here? Because I saw him, so on that Ernest Jones rush that obviously made the rounds as far as the All-22, the tape goes, where he bulldozes the center and Tavondre Sweat almost comes up with a Caleb Williams interception. Roger McCreary is also somebody who's pressuring there from the nickel spot. So they're sending defensive backs. It's a funny play because they drop Jeff and Sweat into coverage. Ernest Jones comes screaming up the middle. You got McCreary coming in from the side, and they are deploying a bunch of different looks that look like blitzes but aren't blitzes, and doing that to put Caleb Williams in a blender. Now, it's not going to be as easy to put Aaron Rodgers in a blender, but can you get more creative with your pressure packages, with your simulated pressures, with your actual blitz packages, and everything else that you've got because Jamal Adams is out there? How viable is he as a football player right now? Because he already missed week 1 with a hip injury. A hip injury that he was healthy enough to clear a physical with, but wasn't healthy enough to play in the game against the Bears.
His snap count will be interesting. Gibbons, by the way, got 30 snaps. Jones got 26.
So pretty equal.
And there were 56 defensive snaps. The only ones that played all 56 were Hooker, Murray, and Quandre Diggs. So it was a very even split there in 30 for Gibbons, 26 for Jones. He was about a step behind Gibbons in the snap count. Denard Wilson says he will get more this week.
John L. says, Key better make a play on Sunday. Well, he had a batted pass against Caleb Williams. He's not, I've said this a million times over. I wish Arden Key was a better football player because he's a great interview, but he's not as good a football player as he is an interview. You need a more impactful edge player alongside Harold Landry, and Arden has been situational for the vast majority of his career, but he's a starting outside linebacker. He's going to play the bulk of the snaps. You're just looking to see if you can get more out of him. And Harold played, how many snaps, do you have the game book in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
How many snaps did Harold play? Because Harold got in there in a couple of different looks, but he obviously didn't play the bulk of the snaps.
52. No, 93%. So there were 4 defensive snaps he was not on the field for.
Harold.
Oh, Harold. I'm sorry. I thought you said Harold.
No.
Jalen Harrell played 17. Yeah. So 30%.
So the defense needs to continue to make plays because this is their biggest advantage against the Jets. That defensive line against a bad Jets offensive line, or a Jets offensive line that may not be bad as the season progresses, but didn't look stellar. Niners are a solid front. Niners were giving them fits. They couldn't run the ball. And Aaron Rodgers, who is mobile enough at 40 years old coming off an Achilles tear, but is not overwhelmingly mobile, he running for his life back there on a few different snaps. So your interior pressure, your simulated pressure, your blitz packages, everything that you've got at your disposal that made Caleb Williams' life a living hell this past Sunday, that's your biggest advantage heading into this game.
Your secondary also is not dealing with the wide receiver core they were dealing with last week. And they did a really nice job against DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze.
Snead stays planting dudes in the turf.
Allen Lazard was Rodgers' favorite target over the weekend. Garrett Wilson had the same amount of catches, but it's kind of those two right now at the wide receiver position.
Think about that, though. Who has Aaron Rodgers played infinitely more football with?
Lazard, yeah. Now, Wilson, the more talented, the younger player, more upside. But yes, unquestionably, he has a better connection historically with Lazard.
Rain, an advantage for whom? Jets or Titans?
Great question.
Because the run game looked like the best thing that they were capable of doing.
And the Jets couldn't. I mean, they ran for 3.5 yards a carry on Monday.
Jets also couldn't stop the run, but there's no, you just cannot convince me that what the Jets allowed against the Niners is what the Jets are going to allow against the Titans.
And the holes Jordan Mason was running
It's
into.
crazy. It's crazy. And also, they've got Juszczyk catching 30-yard passes on a wheel route, the fullback, and Kittle getting open in space, and Ayuk had a drop that should have been a touchdown in that game, but for the most part was good enough to make plays in that system. He wasn't great. He wasn't a $30 million a year player.
2 catches. He was no Jawan Jennings, right? But 2 catches, 28 yards. He was all right.
He was no Jawan Jennings, who was on a bad ankle.
Dude, the way they flipped roles a little bit in that game, like Jawan's the one with the 5 catches for 64 yards. Ayuk is the one with, a couple catches, 20-plus yards. That was interesting.
I don't think it's an advantage for either team. I think it's going to be sloppy for both of these teams, and especially both of these teams that struggle in pass protection. Advantage, as Taylor H. correctly points out on YouTube, advantage the under.
What is the over-under?
If last week was 44, I have to imagine that this week is right around 44.5.
You got it right last time somehow, so we'll see if you go 2 for 2 to start the season.
I will say, let's say 45.5.
41.5.
Whoa, lower. Considerably lower.
Yes. It is the lowest I'm seeing. Chargers at Panthers, the over-under is set at 38.5. Seahawks at Patriots is also set at 38.5. Steelers at Broncos, 36.5.
And the Jets are favored by 3.5 coming into Nissan?
The Jets are favored by an even 4.
An even 4. Okay,
according to FanDuel.
That line, I think I saw it at 3.5 initially. Perhaps that was at a different sports book. But 4 for the Jets coming in. And again, the Titans are not going to be favored in a single game this year, other than the New England Patriots, until such time as they show considerable improvement. There's no reason that you would favor them at home over the Jets, given what it looked like last week.
We'll see what the Packers do this weekend.
I was having a conversation. You can find me for this if you want to. Jen Latta, who is a ESPN college football reporter and a talk show host in Milwaukee. She got my number from, you can find me again, Diana Rossini. And she had reached out because she was just trying to get some background on who Malik is. How did it all go down there? From somebody, from a for all intents and purposes, I'm not a beat writer anymore, but somebody who's around the team on a regular basis. That's just my job. That's not fair. Anyway, she was surprised by how different the narrative was here around Malik Willis versus what is being talked about in the Green Bay, Milwaukee, basically in the state of Wisconsin this week.
Oh, they're just talking about upside, huh?
They're saying Matt LaFleur is going to do it again. He's going to Jordan Love his way into Malik Willis. And I'm sitting there saying, I hope so for Malik's sake, but that was not the experience that he had down here, though he did make incremental improvements as a player, culminating in what was his best performance regular season or preseason, which was 2 touchdown passes against the Saints.
The Packers are 3-point dogs at home against the Colts this weekend.
God, AR or Malik Willis, you can't feel good about either of those bets for totally different reasons. But, yeah, we'll see what happens there. All right, last call for phone calls. Polls will get you ready for Thursday Night Football. Buffalo and the Dolphins, two teams that the Titans are going to see later in the regular season. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045, the number. Thursday Night Football, the Bills and the Dolphins, two teams that are in the Titans' not-too-distant future. I don't know how to feel about this game because Miami screwed around until it was time to go out and beat the Jags, and then they got the job done. Buffalo screwed around until it was time to go beat the Cardinals, and they did the exact same thing, except one of them has a superhuman at quarterback, and the other quarterback, I don't really know what he is.
Yeah, but he has Tyreek Hill.
He has Tyreek Hill, Tyreek Hill is very comfortable at a podium. Have you seen some of his press conferences here lately? He's talking about this police officer that handcuffed him. You gotta go.
Wants him fired.
You gotta go. And like spent a good portion of his press conference just calling for the job of one Miami-Dade police officer that handcuffed him after that whole incident last Sunday. With this game, though, obvious AFC implications, obvious AFC East implications. Which of those four teams, the Patriots will put to the side because the Patriots are 1-0, just as the Bills and the Dolphins are. Jets 0-1 in the division right now. But we'll put the Patriots to the side because we feel like Cincinnati, always in the early part of the season.
Very strange.
Sluggish.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of talk about Burrow's wrist this week.
Oh, has there been? I haven't seen that.
Just like chatter based on, you're talking about Zapruder film of him on the sideline kind of rotating his wrist around.
Well, that was what shut him down last year, right?
Yeah. So and he's had to come out and say, I'm fine. My wrist is fine. But yeah, very strange the way that they are slow out of the gates.
So,
games in Miami.
Which is always difficult, but Josh Allen has gone to Miami and won before. So the weather, obviously a factor. You've got the Gulf right now dealing with hurricane type conditions. I don't know if Miami, South Florida being impacted by said hurricane-type conditions. Hell, we're about to be impacted by hurricane. Is it raining yet here in Middleton? We don't have. I refuse to let Lucas have the windows open in the studio while we do the show.
No, I like having the windows closed.
Yeah,
it's cozy in here.
Cozy. Blaine calls it the Bat Cave when he walks in here.
Yeah, it's like dark, kind of glowing blue lights.
Yeah, you got to have a little vibes. But, I mean, if you look, so that's the first Thursday night prime game. Al Michaels back on the broadcast, which is always entertaining enough. Miami is favored by 2.5 points at home at this point. I would probably bet the Bills. I just don't. There's something about the Dolphins that I don't trust this year. I don't trust them.
You guys want to know a fun fact?
What are you doing here?
Oh, whoa, hey, where'd this guy come from?
Who gave you a microphone?
Josh Allen has never lost on a Thursday night.
Where did you get that stat?
Someone told me in passing.
Little birdie?
Trust it. A little birdie told me. Oh, I like that. Tweet.
Why are you here?
You told me not to leave. You're like, it's about over. Don't leave. I love you, buddy.
That's
Give me a big
true.
smooch.
You did. You told him not to
big
leave.
Sloppy, wet kiss I wiped in.
That's not true.
Would you like to tell everyone in the audience why you wouldn't like to go live on Instagram with me before your show came on the air?
What, Shannon Sharp-esque?
Yeah, the bit that we were going to do, but you were opposed.
Because I've reduced myself at a number of different points in my life, but never have I been that low to find you attractive.
You wouldn't have to find me attractive.
Let's start there. No. There has to be some some baseline level of attraction to pull off what Shannon Sharp did on Instagram Live. So you and I are not going to be engaging in that kind of behavior.
You couldn't be attracted to my intellect? My wit, my charm?
It's been 2 years, and all it does is piss me off.
We were talking Dolphins Bills before this. What's
He's the one who wanted to talk about Instagram live sex, not me.
Did you guys talk about it yet, or did I just throw a fish in here?
Shadows.
Let's go live, baby.
It was referenced. I love the idea of Robert naming his kid Birdie, just Berty. Have a little birdie running around.
I hate the idea of Robert having children because that would mean that there are more of them running around here. Polls, please. It's my Friday fire tomorrow. Bert. It's my Friday fire tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Was that you or him? That was disgusting.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Do you trust Will Levis to improve his decision-making in Week 2? 71% say yes. Yes, they do.
I do trust his decision-making to improve. What I don't trust is him and the weather. I don't know what that's going to look like. Has he played in a bad weather game yet in the NFL? I can't think of one. I mean, it's been cold in games that he's played.
I don't think he's played in like a downpour.
No, there's not been a rain
like
game or anything like that for Will Levis. So that gives me a bit of hesitancy.
How many bad performances would it take for you to want the Titans to bench Will Levis? 38.4% say 2 to 5. 34.7% are saying give him the whole year no matter what. 20% going 5 to 10. 7% say one more and they're done. Put Mason Rudolph in there.
2 to 5 is a really short leash. I would probably be inclined to give him more of the season than not. But that's because that's what this entire season is not about. I hate to break it to Titans fans. You're not going to the Super Bowl this year. You're not winning the Super Bowl this year. So the primary thing that you have to figure out is whether or not this quarterback can function for you moving forward, not just this season, but into seasons beyond.
What is the Vols' best path to the college football playoff? 56% say go all out, win the SEC. 44% say you might be better off avoiding the SEC championship game. Just get in.
I'm of the just get in. Just get in. Let's have some fun with a home game at Neyland Stadium. Get in that 5 to 8 range that allows you to host a home playoff game, and let's have some fun with it.
Should the new and improved Pac-12 be allowed to call itself a power conference? 81% say no.
Well, that's dramatic. They should be.
I agree. Let them be a power conference.
Let them be a power.
Let's get back to a Power 5. I don't want to get used to saying Power 4.
Power 4 just sounds weird to me.
Sounds terrible.
But now I've become used to it, so now it's going to take an adjustment for me to start saying Power 5 again.
Those are the polls.
That's the show. We appreciate you guys hanging out. If you missed anything that we did today, if you want to catch up with any of this stupidity, if you want to listen back to Ernest Jones' interview, he was great. You can do that via the podcast. Blaine and Zach coming up next.